Morning. So we're back here. As we said in our last video, we would start digging again near the location where we found the buckle, in the hope that we find the rest of the person. Maybe like
his coin purse,
a coin purse or whatever. But you never know. It is proof that there was somebody here around 17XX. So we're gonna dig here.
Yes.
What do you think?
Let's get digging.
Okay, let's go digging. My name is Al.
I'm Carrie.
And this is...
Oh my god!
It's definitely silver!
Yeah!
Silver in the pocket!
Oh, there's the ship. There's the ship. You see it?
But they're coins and they're cool.
Woo! 1908!
Oh, Carrie! Woo!
Look at that!
Oh, the higher it goes, the older the coins are.
Well, this is the first find of the morning. The surface find. Check out this bike. It's a Road King, and it says Eaton on it. Look at the handlebars. So rad, this bike was cool. Doesn't have a banana seat though. This is my second find of the day, a bullet casing, and it has 1941 on there.
This is going to be interesting. So I found this.
Cool.
It was a 24, so it could be anything. So let's find out what's inside.
What?
Oh, there's a note.
Is that a coin?
Yeah, that's a penny. That's what I was getting. So he lets you deal with the note, and I deal with the penny.
This is so neat, people. Look, it says, we were here on October 10th, 1982 at 11 a.m. Heather, Jennifer, Craig, Peggy. We were here again November 11th at 1 p.m. We were here every weekend since November 18th, 82?
Yeah, because the penny is from 82.
To January 15th, 83.
Where were you, chicken?
Where were you, chicken? JL and FL. And the penny is from 1982.
I'm not sure. I mean, that is a cool
Isn't
find. That is amazing.
So we have to leave it here. But isn't that cool? This came up as a 12 on my Equinox 600. It's got interesting curves to the metal. Don't know what it's from. Maybe it's just someone peeled open a can of sardines and this is what but I like to think maybe this might be something interesting. Any ideas?
So I found this here. I mean, like, most likely it is more modern. It could be like yeah, it could be from like a sardine can, but I don't know. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you have a box
big enough
for it?
I have a box big enough for it. Let me show you my box that is big enough for it. My box!
Oh, yeah, that's a good box.
It is big enough for it.
Yeah.
That is really awesome.
I think, yeah, it is bigger than the other one that I found.
If it is, what did it ring up as?
24.
Yeah, that could be lead. Yeah, it is lead. Like, yeah, it is definitely lead.
Lead?
It's lead.
What's that mean?
Well, if it's a larger caliber round ball, most likely it's a military weapon. Because farmers could not afford large chunks of lead, so they would use smaller caliber. So I found a pocket knife. Doesn't look like it's old. Rang in as 14.
Oh.
It's pretty gone.
Yeah, still cool.
Toasty toast. To your musket ball.
See if the little squirrel comes back. Come back, little squirrel. Come back to your little hole. Here he comes. Here he comes. Here he comes. Look, he's gonna go into the hole. And he brings out a nut. He hides it there. He's coming back. He's coming back to his hole. He's got a whole bunch of nuts and seeds. Look, he's moving. I found another coin of nothingness. And look what I did. I scraped it all the way across. It was really deep and it was actually in ice, and that's why I scratched it by accident. Just found another bullet that has 1941 on it. This one's intact.
I found a Canadian badge.
Oh my goodness.
It says 18 something on
Oh
it.
my god. Look at that. What's on the back? Oh shoot, it's a pin.
It's a pin. Yeah.
Wow. Oh wait. When you hold it in the sun the right way,
It says 18th something.
yeah, there's a lot of writing there. How about we get our toothbrush out and
Clean it.
clean it a little bit and come back?
Okay, so after doing some field research with Google, so this is a hat badge worn between 1916 and 1920, and it is from the 180th Canadian Infantry Battalion. I don't really know what it says, a dress insignia. The 180 Battalion raised in Toronto and called itself the Sportsman's Battalion. Hoped to entice athletics to the ranks. So that's what it is. So they basically were actually, that could be from the First World War, because that ended in 1918. Yeah. So it could well be a badge that somebody had that went to war in Europe. Wow. And that's why 1920, that's when the war was over, the troops came back. So that's probably when the last time this badge was issued. Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's so
musket ball.
Oh man, I found our first ever military artifact. That's so cool. Congratulations.
Thank you. I am so happy with this.
That is so cool. Look at that, I just found a button. I don't think there's anything on it, but I think it's called a flat button. And look, you can see the shank. It's still there. Sometimes there's writing on the back of these buttons. A bouton. I found a bouton. The Grim Bleeper says that all the time. Every time he finds a button, I found a bouton. So I took a toothbrush lightly to it. No markings of any sort. It's a flat button. It's so cool. It's my first flat button. I thought this was a button at first. It's made out of lead, but it kind of looks like, you know, one of those curtain weights. But women had these in their dresses. They're called dress weights to keep the hems down and stuff, but it's in the middle of the woods. I don't know if this is old or not. Something to look up and learn about. So here's a tiny wrap up of what we found. I found two bullet casings from the 1941. I found a pocket knife. I found a flat button, a coin of nothingness, possibly a hem weight to a women's dress from the 1700s to the 1800s. I found this here. Ab said it might be part of a clock, like a spring to a clock.
A bell spring, eh?
Yeah, which is interesting. I found a musket ball or
Round ball.
a round ball. I still need to learn all the terminology for that kind of stuff.
We were going to measure it, and then
Yeah.
we know what caliber it was.
Ab found a piece of lead shot. And the coolest thing today that Ab found was a hat badge.
I think actually the button...
Canadian hat badge from World War One. What was it, 1916 or
1916 to 1920.
Yeah.
That's what that regiment was.
Yeah.
Was from Toronto.
Yeah. They went out. They did go overseas to England and fought there. That is so cool. See you later. Hello, welcome to Chat Time with Carrie and Ab. I'm Carrie. This is Ab.
When she says it like that, I hear the music of the Antique Roadshow, the British one, in the background, like doo 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 doo. So as you saw, this video we went back to, as we promised in the last video, and we found some really cool stuff. So the things that we're going to sort of put some attention to are the three things that are here on the table. That is a military hat badge, a thumb-back button, and a dress weight. So Carrie...
This is a tomback button from watching some other YouTubers who metal detect. Tomback is a sort of a not.
It's a cheap alloy.
It's a cheap alloy. Thank you. A mixture of metals. It's shiny and silver, but when you find a lot of them, I guess you can tell that people are like, oh, this is a tomback button. I'm like, what is a tomback? This is my first one. But he mentioned that there's concentric circles on the back of tomback buttons.
Like a record.
Yeah, like a record. And this button has that, so I was very excited. And he also mentioned how the back of it is kind of shaped like a volcano, and the shank is...
how it protrudes out like a volcano.
Yeah. Sorry. So I have my very first tomback button.
Sometimes difficult.
I also found a hem weight, and back in the day, women would have these sewn into the hems of their skirts so that the wind wouldn't blow them up. And I found a photo of the British Museum of hem weights that they have in their collection. So I'm pretty sure, hopefully, that it dates to around the 1700s to 1800s. So that was exciting. I also found the
musket ball. So all these three items sort of like solidify that there was stuff happening there in that time period, and that is really cool. Because like we come from Vancouver, and the oldest stuff that we found was 1920s, 1910, and we were really excited about that. But now we're actually finding really old artifacts. Woo! So the other item we have a lot more information on, because nobody wrote their address on the back of a button, so we can't really tie it to something. But this pin sent us on a journey. What we discovered is, in the beginning of the First World War, the British Empire went to everybody, the whole Commonwealth, and said, we need soldiers. So in Canada, they started to recruit soldiers, and what they did is they created all these battalions with these fancy names. Like this one is a sportsman battalion, the 180 Sportsman Battalion. It was founded in Toronto, and so most people were from Toronto. It sailed in November of 1916 on the SS Olympic to Britain, where it 3 months later was absorbed in the 3rd Reservist Battalion. before they actually were shipped to France. And this happened with a lot of battalions. They all got sort of absorbed into bigger battle groups, and they lost their identity. I think there was the 1st, 2nd and 3rd and 4th battalions for the Canadians where they got absorbed in. What we discovered as research, we found some documents online.
Yeah. So we were able to find a document. It's the Canadian Expeditionary Force 180th Battalion, and it has a list of everyone who was in the battalion before they shipped over to England. And what's really interesting, it has their regimental number, which you can type into a database and it'll give you the whole war record of each person, which is really amazing. It has their rank, it has their name, their former corps, if they were in something before they joined this battalion, the name of their next of kin, the address of their next of kin, and then country of birth, and then place and date of where they were taken on strength, which meant where they were, where they signed up. And what was really interesting is almost the majority, I think it might be like 300 men here, majority of them lived and signed up in Toronto, but there are a few, including men from England, Scotland, the United States. There's one from the country of Newfoundland, and we looked that up, and Newfoundland was already part of Canada. It was like a mistake that they made. Also, there was a man from the West Indies, which was interesting. But in this list, there are 4 men who have very strong ties to St. John. And we found this hat pin in St. John, so we decided to do more research on these 4 men, and we're going to do a quick little
talk about what we discovered in their military records. And this is kind of crazy. With that number that Carrie was talking about, you can go to the Ottawa War Museum. They have a database. You type in this number and you get the war records of these people, and it's kind of mind-blowing to go through that. To me, in the beginning, it was kind of like I was a little bit quiet and taken back of what we discovered. So the first one that we want to talk to is Rolf Turnbull, Markham. He was a corporal. Ralph actually made it through the war. What it also is interesting is these war records show what it was like, what people did, what their pastimes were. Like Rolf, for instance, spent a lot of time in a hospital dealing with venereal diseases. Like he had gonorrhea, he had syphilis, serious cases of this, and he spent quite a bit of time in the hospital. And this is he got discharged on May the 2nd, 1919. So he made it all the way through the war, and maybe because of his partying attitude, he survived the war.
His mom also lived on 222 Duke Street, so if anyone has relatives that lived there, last name Markham. The second person that we're going to talk about is Private Francis Jenkins, and he joined in St. John as if he lived here, and his next of kin was his father in Toronto. It mentions that he was red-haired and he was a newsboy, and he arrived in England on the SS Olympic in November 1916, and then interestingly he was discharged January 1917, 2 months later, because he was a minor under 17 years old. So somehow, or something happened.
They discovered it most likely just before they got shipped off to the front. He was discovered and he was sent home. Maybe another reason why he went to St. John to sign up is because in Toronto they would have known that he was too young. But it's interesting to see how these people actually were so hyped up and did not understand what they were signing up for. Private John James Young was married, and his wife lived in St. John, and he signed up in Sussex. Again, it's a stone throw away from St. John. He wasn't that lucky. He was missing in action on the 15th of November 1917 and declared killed in action on the 24th of November 1917. And these periods of time were normal because they had these battles, and it took them that long to actually get the word from everybody, from his colleagues, what happened to him. So he wasn't as lucky, and he got killed in action.
Yeah, it also mentions on the records that his wife Odessa remarried and moved to BC. So I can imagine that she was pretty maybe devastated and had to get away, and she moved as far as she could to the other side of Canada. The fourth man was named Private John Anderson, and he joined in St. John as well, as if he was living here, and his father was listed as next of kin in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and he went on the Olympic as well in January, and then it lists him about a year later as a deserter. And I was kind of shocked to read that. I was like, oh my goodness. He spent a time waiting for trial, and then going to trial, and then he was sentenced to 9 months in jail. And what was kind of confusing and interesting was that there was a death certificate also in the list of documents, and it doesn't list the date or the reason or where he died, and that kind of scared me a little bit. I thought maybe he committed suicide while he was in jail or something, but then Ab mentioned something else that was even scarier.
The Canadian soldiers were basically part of the British military, and in the British military it was a practice to execute deserters. But normally these were people that were like deserted on the battlefield, or were cowardice in the face of the enemy, and then they got executed.
We looked it up.
Basically
9 people have been murdered.
Well, no, only 11 Canadians.
Yeah.
Only 11 Canadians.
And his name wasn't listed in that list of firing squad.
But when we looked at his record more closely, we noticed what happened is he got hurt and he was sent to hospital. And when he was sent to hospital, he decided not to go back to the front, and he was basically, they call it absent without leave, and he was captured. He was sentenced for 9 months, and that was a suspended sentence, so he was basically sent to the front, and this is probably why he did not get executed. But his death certificate, which was basically issued on the 20th, on 1920, which was, the war ended in 1918, so that was really weird, and we tried to figure it out, but we did not.
If anyone wants to help us, we'll have his regimental number. Maybe back then it was all like handwritten documents, and it's very fancy script that is hard to read, and different it's just need help.
So what we want to do is this, I don't believe that I want to keep this badge in a private collection. If you know of somebody who has a public collection, who wants to display this badge, or if we can find one of the relatives of these people, we want to present it to them with the names attached to it, because we're really pretty sure that, like, just because Toronto was far away, it's too much of a coincidence that we find this in a park in St. John. So we would like to show the public, give them an understanding what these men went through.
Yeah, you contacted the
New Brunswick, New Brunswick Museum, and they said
in St. John here.
In St. John, and they said we already have a pin of the 180th, and
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we want to put it out there. If you know, if you have an idea, if you know maybe one of these families, just contact us either to a comment below, because we would like to hear from you, or we basically like, if you have an idea where to send it to or where to display it, let us know.
You never know, like maybe someone's relative would know, like, oh, you know, I took my honey out for a stroll and we had a roll in the hay and I lost my cat badge, and we could figure it out. We'd be like, hey, we found it.
So next week we're going to go and do a permission that we were been talking about a couple of times already.
With my father and his best friend Grant and his son Troy.
We're gonna metal detect near a 1750-56 French fort where the Brits and the French were doing some battle, and hopefully we're gonna find these missing gold coins that everybody's talking about.
It's on a permission. The land borders the fort, and we were told that people were allowed to detect about 2 or 3 years ago, but
you never know what we're gonna find. But we hope to find some old stuff.
Yeah.
Well, if you like this video and you'd like to see more of it, please like and subscribe, and definitely leave a comment, because we definitely want to hear from you. You got anything to say? No. So may your finds be plentiful and what you desire.
See you later.
Have a great day. Bye now.
Bye.
And now I discovered that I forgot to press record.